Hi viewers, I am your host Muhammad Shahid. In today's video, I want to discuss in a very brief form. Briefly, I want to discuss how you should deal with news sources in the field of journalism and mass communication. Attribution is very important for a journalist. Attribution means you should tell your readers where information in your news report comes from. So, a journalist always attributes information to their sources. If you don't attribute information in a news report, it means you are giving your own opinion on an issue, which is not allowed for a journalist in a news report. We have only opinion pages for publishing the articles and columns and opinion pieces. Otherwise, all the newspaper pages or magazines, or even in the electronic media, you have to attribute your information to their sources. So you must tell, as a journalist, you must tell your readers where information in your news report is coming from. When it comes to attribution, so normally when we meet journalists, when we meet sources or when we contact sources for our news reports, and sources is very important because news is happening all the time, 24 hours. So it's not possible for a journalist to be present each and everywhere. So that's why we, the journalist community, we use sources in order to get information, collect information for our news reports. So normally we use on the record sources. On the record attribution means that in the news report, as a journalist, you use both the name of the source, you identify the source in the news report, and also you give all the information that the source has given you about any incident. So you quote both the name and all the information of that source. It is on the record. Sometimes there is some information which is sensitive, and the source will tell you that you must not name them. So what they will tell you just without naming them, you just use their information. So that is anonymous source, or you can say that information is called non-attributable information. Yes, there are sometimes cases which are sensitive, so the source will never name him or her because they may lose their job, they may get other punishment, for example. And if the story is also important, the issue is also important, you can't miss him, you can't miss that story. So what you do, sometime under compulsion, you use anonymous source, right? So that kind of source where the information is taken, it is used in the story, but the name of the information giver or the source, that is not mentioned in the story, right? That is anonymous source. Another kind of source sometimes you meet in the field of journalism, that is when somebody gives you information and tells you that please don't use my information, nor should you use my name. So for example, you just think about it. For example, if you interview somebody, a source, and that source tells you after 30 minutes of interview that, oh, Mr. Journalist, all the things I have told you, that is off the record. It means your half an hour is wasted. So what you do, you have an edge there as a journalist. You can ask that source that even if it was off the record, so why they didn't tell you before the interview? Because you have at least wasted half an hour. So you have an edge there. You can force that source to at least give you some information that is not sensitive, to at least give you some non-sensitive information on the record, so that you are able to quote that source. And where there is some information that they not like to publish, you can avoid that information. But off the record source often tells you that they give you the information just for your understanding as a journalist. Now, if you get in off the record information, so first of all, you should, if that source is not willing, you should go find another source for that information. Maybe you get a source that may be willing to give you information on the record. So then you should take that source, use information from that source, because on the record information is credible and ethically it's fine. And the same rule should be applied to the anonymous source. If somebody is giving you information and not willing to give their name in the story, so you should ask them, for example, that if they have told you about 5 things or 5 points, you just ask them that if in those 5 things, at least 1 or 2 points may be such that you can quote them, if that information is not sensitive. And yes, if some information is sensitive, then you can go on and use another source, find another source for that sensitive information, which may be not, there may be some source for whom this sensitive information is not that much sensitive, the way the previous source was having, or it like that. So that's why you have to find a number of sources. The more sources you have, the more you can become a credible journalist, and the more you will be able to perform your job in an appropriate manner. That's why that we journalists use sources, we deal with sources, because as journalists, I am not able to be present each and everywhere to report every incident, right? So right now, when we are discussing this thing or this topic, news is happening. Somewhere maybe some accident taking place, somewhere maybe some political party, maybe holding a rally there in a district or any place, or there may be news in the hospitals, some incidents may be taking place on the roads. So news is happening all the time. So as a journalist, I am not able to be present each and everywhere to report every incident. That's why I have to rely on sources. But I'm just telling you that you should also always prefer on the record source. That source which is giving you information and which doesn't have any problem being quoted on that information in the news report. So there may be some cases which are sensitive. The source may not be willing to give their name in the news report. They just give you information. Or there may be some source which tells you that it's off the record. So they just give you information off the record just for your understanding. And they also ask you that, yes, you can go find another source to quote them. So always try to find some source which is willing to give their name plus information. Yes, if in the international media we usually mostly use on the record information. But yes, in the local media, mostly we have seen that the entire report is based on anonymous source. However, ethically we should find on the record sources. If there is an issue, we should also then contact the relevant authorities on that, government authorities on that. So basically what we do, we find a conflict in society. As journalists, we find a conflict, then we go to party A, ask them questions, get information from that, and then what that party A tells us, in response to that, we go to party B, and then also seek the version of party B. So in this way, on that particular conflict, we get a balanced story from both sides. Right? So we are objective in this way. And so this is the way I just wanted to share with you in this short video how you should deal your sources, anonymous source, for example, or on the record information, anonymous or non-attributable information, and off the record. So I hope it's clear, and let's meet in the next videos. So see you all. Until then, goodbye.